let's get to it. So, welcome to SolidWorks. If you haven't used any CAD before, I'm gonna pretend like you don't know anything about CAD, and if you know something, you can just skip through it. But I'd rather you guys have all the information instead of not enough. Um, so a little bit about CAD is that it's a parametric software. So basically, what that means is, as we build things out, this left hand side, this is called the feature tree. We're going to fill it up with features that are all connected to each other with different relationships. So the reason why that's powerful is because if we make one little change, let's say we do 10 different features and they're all, it's like building blocks to a house, right? Let's say you lay the foundation, you do everything, you get to like a final step, like you're on, I don't know anything about houses. You're building the roof, right? Let's say, oh, you're building a roof. We forgot we should have changed that one thing in the beginning when we were laying the foundation. No problem. You can go back in the feature tree, click that one thing, and then if you design your model uh, in a smart way, which I'll show you how to do, everything will auto update and your model will be good. And it's a great way to make quick changes. So that's a little detail about parametric software and CAD and how that can be super powerful. So in terms of navigation, there's a couple of things you should know. Um, it's a little tough to see right now. Let me just make a random block just so we can. It's a little bit easier to view what I'm talking about. Okay. So the way that you navigate in here is if I hold the scroll wheel, if hold the scroll wheel down and sort of move my mouse around, um, you can rotate or orient the object however you want. And then there's a bunch of tools up here to help you orient. So um, I like to basically decide in my head whatever I'm making, what's going to be the front view, what's going to be the top view, and what's going to be the right view. If I was making this block right here, I'd probably say that this piece right here is the front view. This top piece would be the top view, and this right piece would be the right view, right? So if you want to sort of snap 90 degrees to any of those views, you can click this little cube here, and then you can go to any of those views and it'll snap. If I want to go to the front view, directly 90 degrees to the front view. Same thing with the top view or the right view. Um, this is a section view. We probably won't use this in this lesson, but this is super useful if you have like a ton of stuff going on and it's pretty complicated and you want to look at like the inside of how like parts are interconnected. You can sort of pretend like you're just cutting it in half and you can see exactly what's going on down the center of it. I don't think we're going to use that in this course though. I don't really use any of these tools. These are kind of useless. This is kind of useful. So this is just like basically how your object is appearing in 3D space. So this is shaded with edges. So it's got some shading and lighting, and then on the edges there are these black lines. That's basically what I keep on at all times. You can turn off the black edges. The only other one that I sometimes use is wireframe. If I'm like trying to like look through an object, this will basically give you like an X-ray view of what's going on in your design. But for the most part, I'm basically just in shaded with edges, and then if I ever need to like look at the inner workings of something, that's when I'll use the section view. Um, this eye can be somewhat useful if you have a lot of stuff going on. Basically, you can like toggle it, so it'll show like planes and sketches and all this stuff. So let's say before you even start a tree, it gives you a front plane, a top plane, and a right plane. And they're, in my view, they're hidden by default. So let's say I keep that shown. Let's say I always want to show those, but for whatever instance, it's super cluttered. We added 10 more planes, and it's hard to see stuff. You can just click that, and it turns it on and off, and you can sort of toggle what you want to be included in that menu. And that's basically it. That's all you need to know for this top menu and like how to orient. So I said if the scroll wheel, if you click that down and sort of pan or move your mouse around, that'll like rotate your object. You can snap to objects using this. You can also, what I like to do is like, if you're like close enough to a view, but like not exactly on it, or if you click that face, whichever you're trying to like work with, if you press Control 8, it'll just like snap to that view. So I actually use that more often than this menu. Sometimes this is useful though. Another important thing when you're working with this is I really like what's it called? I always work in millimeters for all of my personal stuff, just like what I grew up designing with. Um, so if you want to change your units, you click this little gear icon and then you go to document properties, units. It might be on something else by default. If it's messing with you, just make sure MMGS is set to default and then you press OK. Also, SolidWorks can be a little iffy in terms of depending on what like graphics card you have. So if you're like sort of lagging a lot or you're having issues, you can go to performance and sort of check out what I have here. I don't have a super powerful computer right now, and I've sort of optimized. You know, I just want my parts to be designed quickly and work with as quick as possible, right? So um, the level of detail I turned all the way down so my computer operates faster. I basically made everything fast here. Um, and you can copy these settings if you desire and your computer isn't running that quickly. Okay, so that's a gist of the entering the software, navigating, getting set up, and next I'm going to show you like how to actually create parts and like all the different features that you can use. All right, so you got SolidWorks installed. You're ready to start your design. So you'll click this little paper icon, and this is how you create a new file. You can either create a part, assembly, or drawing. For now, we'll click part, and I'll explain the differences a bit later. Okay, so you just opened up your software. You got your feature tree on the left. Uh, in the middle of all this space is your like design space, is what I call it. I don't know if there's an actual name for it. It automatically gives you these 3 planes that are hidden by default. If you want to show them, you can just uh, click them and then right click and then press show. And if you haven't, once again, I'm going to pretend you haven't used CAD software before, so I'm just going to explain everything. So the way that this works is to build a 3D model. Everything starts, for the most part, everything starts in 2D first. So you're working in one plane and then you do something to whatever that shape is to grow it into 3 dimensions. So we're not even going to touch features yet. First, you need to make a sketch. So a sketch is basically whatever shape you want to make on a 2D plane, restricted to that plane, and you can define exactly how it's going to look to build your object. So we're going to click sketch, and then it's going to say select a plane on which to create a sketch for the entity. So for our design, let's say we're starting with the front entrance door, right, to our cave. So I'm gonna start on the front plane. That's at least how I want to orient my part, right? So the front view of the cave will be the front of the object. So there's a couple different things you can do here. This is just a what you would expect. Let me turn these planes off. I always keep them hidden. There's a bunch of different features. This obviously, and there's also shortcuts for all of them. If you hover over, it'll tell you what the shortcut for it is. So this is just a line, as you would expect. That's self-explanatory. Um, this is a rectangle. You have a couple of different options here. So I don't use all of these. So I'll use corner most frequently, and you can start at a point, and then you left click wherever you want to start, and then left click again to finish it. Sometimes I'll use center rectangle, so you can start it about the center of the rectangle, and then it creates these like diagonal construction lines to help you build your shape. And then there's also 3-point parallelogram or 3-point rectangle. So sometimes I'll do that if I have to like make a weird rectangle at an angle, but for the most part, I don't really use that. There's circle. That's self-explanatory. You can create an arc, which is just like a portion of a circle, right? There's splines, which are just like really curvy objects with like points to control them. Ellipses, and then sketch fillet. I don't really use. This is a really powerful tool. So this is trim entities. So let's say whatever I'm doing looks like this, and I have these like extra portions of my design. You can just I always just press T as a shortcut, and it comes up with this scissor, and then I always have it on trim to closest. You just left click, and it trims away the extra fat. And then there's also extend. So let's say you have this line here, or let's make this vertical. And this one doesn't exactly reach here, but you want it to be exactly on there. You just press this, or I press E, and it just pushes that line to the end. Um, convert entities is really useful. So uh, let's say I have this box, right? And then on top of the box, I'm doing another sketch here, right? This is a really simple example, and you probably wouldn't need it. But let's say I wanted my next sketch to use this exact line, right? I could use convert entities, and you click that line, and it just takes it into your sketch exactly how you would want it. For now, that's basically the gist. There's pattern, mirror, um, which you may need for this lesson. I don't know. I'll show you if it comes up, but I don't want to go too in detail now and overload you. So that's what we have for the sketches. So that's we're working in a 2D plane. Okay, so now you have your let me explain also dimensioning. So this is really useful, and also constraints. So smart dimension is super useful tool, or D is the shortcut. So I just press D, and then now I can set dimensions to whatever I want to build, right? So I could just make this 60 or whatever. And then, so the difference between these black lines and the blue lines, the black lines mean they're like fully defined and set. And the blue lines mean if you see something that's blue, it means you're sort of missing something, right? You're missing a dimension or a constraint. So what a constraint is so if we click on this line, right, there's a couple constraints. This little green thing means that there's a constraint telling you that the line wants to be vertical. Or you could make this line like this. This one's horizontal, right? And there's a bunch of different constraints for whatever you're trying to build. So let's say you have a circle, and you want this circle to be on this corner. So I'm going to press Control and then click that circle. You could also um, coincident basically means put this center of the circle on this corner. Um, merge is just like merge is a little bit different. So let's say I'm like this. If you want to bring these 2 points together, that's what merge is really. Let's go back in. Let's just make sure that it's fully defined, right? So let's say I want this to be 60, but let's say, I don't know, I want a square. So if I click this line and then I click this line with control. So I left click this line and then you press control and then left click this line. Now, if you go onto the left hand side menu, it's going to give you a bunch of different options, right? So do you want to make both of these lines horizontal? No. Do you want both of these lines to be vertical? No. Do you want them to be collinear? Basically, that just means like if you had a line like this and a line like this, and they were not exactly on top of each other, but they were both horizontal and like parallel to each other. Collinear just means just like make them on top of each other, make them like one line basically. Perpendicular, self-explanatory. One line 90 degrees to the other one. Parallel means they're at the same angle, right? But not on top of each other. So if we want a square, equal is what we want. So you just hit equal. And now the nice thing is parametric software, right? Punch in this guy, Let's just make this 100. Now the other side updates too because it's parametric. We've established a relationship between one side, this side, and this side. We said that they're going to be equal. We changed one and the other one updated. Okay, so that's basic summary of the sketcher and how to build features in a 2D plane. I think I talked a little bit about all the sketching features. I don't want to, once again, I don't want to overwhelm you. I'm not going to go too in depth. In the next video, I'm just going to speak a little bit about all of the features and how to get started, and then we're going to start building our cave design.